the author of Breaking Dawn, Stephanie Meyer.
Let's hear her talk.
You guys are really, really cool. I like you. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. And wasn't that just so amazing? I'm really kind of bummed. I gotta say, this is probably the last time in my life I get to be on stage for a rock concert. And it's hard to let that go. But it's been such an amazing experience to get to work with Justin and sit back there and listen to all of this every other night or so. It's been fantastic. So I'm just really glad you all could hear that because it's amazing stuff.
Woo! Yeah!
And now,
and continuing the host series. What else are you thinking of writing about?
okay, that one I actually didn't write. I've been starting out with a kind of overall question because most of the questions are you going to follow Renesmee further in the future? Are you going to write something about Garrett? So it's good to hear what my plans are as of right now. And first of all, obviously, I need to work on Midnight Sun.
Give me Edward Cullen!
Before I get back to, vampires or even the host, which is kind of been calling to me lately, there's a lot of other characters that are just dying for their chance. It's kind of a funny place inside my head. There's a lot of people there, and they're all just jockeying for time. And so there's a couple of stories I'm really excited about right now. So I think the next thing will probably be a ghost story.
Our second question comes from Lindsay. You said the Twilight originally had a more defined ending. What would that be?
That was a good question. Originally, when Twilight was just going to be one book, and I wasn't really thinking about sequels, Bella and Edward actually got engaged at the end of Twilight, and sort of
that was fast.
Into their happily ever after. And then they kept writing epilogues, very long epilogues. I realized, gosh, I'm not ready to be done with these characters, but where do I go from here? And that's why I wrote the original sequel for that I called Forever Dawn back then, immediately after Twilight, because it sort of ended where Eclipse had ended. And then I thought, there's a lot of time that we skipped over here. Bella's senior year, there's so much that I just sort of said, and with one thing and another, we got to the wedding. So I went back and delved more deeply into high school, and I'm really glad I did, because I had a tremendous amount of fun writing Moonlit and Breaking Dawn. Eclipse. So that's where originally Twilight ended.
We have a question from Rebecca. She asked, if it's not too much trouble, could you please explain all the symbolism for the Twilight series covers?
Okay, this one I get a lot, so let's go through it. All right, first we have Twilight, which is about the idea of choice. You have an offer in that cover. Are you going to bite into this apple? The apples have a lot of history, so there's a pretty good chance that things poisoned, just going off the mythology. So that to me made a really interesting idea, because is Bella going to find out about this other world, or is she happy the way she is? Of course, we know what she chose. Then we have New Moon, a very lovely ruffled tulip that actually has no meaning at all. Before I got to veto covers I didn't like, and so that one was just somebody at the company thought that was a really cool color scheme. I was like, okay, well, whatever. Then we had Eclipse, which I did get to come by the way. And this is sort of a visible example of what happens when you try and break away from your old life and you don't do it in clean cut. It gets messy. There are strings you can't break. Bella trying to break away from her life, it got pretty messy for a while there. So this was my visual representation of that. And then we have Breaking Dawn, which I did have a veto on. So this was exactly what I wanted, and I was really happy with the way it turned out. There are two reasons for this cover. In one sense, it is the cover for the entire series, because we have Bella starting out as the weakest player on the board, and then she progresses to when she becomes the most powerful player, and she's really the one that affects the ending of the story. So this is about Bella's progression. Also, in specific for Breaking Dawn, I knew that the end is going to be a mental game, and what game represents a mental game more than chess, so I wanted to foreshadow the end of it. That is why the covers are the way they are.
I hope I'm pronouncing this right. This is from Janessa. At the beginning of each book, you put a quote. What's your favorite quote so far?
I like that question. That's cool. I really like doing Fire and Ice. It's one of my favorite poems.
Woo! Yeah, Robert Frost!
I was really pleased at how nicely it tied in. And then I also really enjoyed quoting Orson Scott Card in the last book. Because, you know, all these other writers are dead and gone, and here we have someone in the modern day who is writing with such insight, and he can do these profound one-sentence statements that just blow me away. So I was really excited to share that.
This one is from Caitlin Lagman, who came all the way from Blaine, Washington, up north. Very cool. Do you think of things as you write, or do you have it all planned out in an outline?
I've noticed that a lot of people come out to my signings, like, I don't know, 99.9%, are interested in writing in some capacity. I think those are the kind of people who come to signings. They want to know more about it. So I'd like to pull a few questions about writing. I am still pretty new to the process. I've only been doing this for 5 years. So I've been changing how I write. With Twilight, there was no plan. It was completely a mess. I just wrote to see what would happen. After that, I did have to use outlines, but I don't stick to them very often. I think my favorite outline is probably the one I did for the host. In the end, it was like at least 75 pages long, single space. It actually included portions of dialogue when I would get going in there. So, and then I was changing it as I went. So things that were in the outline got melded away to something else, which happens a lot. When you have strong characters, they tend to not follow the rules or the outline. But so I'm still playing with that. I like to do really long, detailed outlines that I then refuse to follow. That's sort of my